Welcome back to this video again, guys. So we are going to be going through question number 2 in this part. So let's go through the question together first, and then I'll give you a couple of minutes to actually do the questions. Okay. So the resting pulse of 20 female athletes was measured and is shown below. Rep A, represent the data in a distribution table using appropriate groupings. Calculate the mean, median, and mode of the data and comment on the similarities and differences between the three values. So here's your question. Just pause this video for a few minutes and see if you are able to figure out the answer to this question. Although you can see the table, just try and look at the question for the time being. Okay, perfect. Now that you have had a go at this question, let's see how we're going to create the pulse distribution table together. So remember, the first thing you should be doing with a maths question like this is to read the question very carefully. We have been told from the question that you have to group appropriately and represent the data. So how do we represent a data table? Is first of all you have a title, and then you say you have an x and a y axis basically, or x and y values. So in this case, we have our frequency and your pulse range. So the pulse ranges are going to be going on the x-axis and the frequency goes on the y-axis. So what we have to do is first of all see how many times a particular set of numbers are appearing or within a particular pulse range. So in this case 30 to 39, within that range 3 of them pop up frequently. So 30, we have 34, we have 38, so 30 to 39. You have to set out that range so it's easier for you to create that frequency set. Similarly with 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and 60 to 69. If we were to do it without this frequency, it would be very difficult for us to create that distribution table. As a result of it, they've already clarified that you have to create an appropriate grouping for this type of question. Okay, perfect. Now what you have to do is calculate the mean. So how do we calculate the mean? Basically all these data points for the pulse rates, you would just have to add them together and then divide by how many there are, which is 20, and that should give you something like 48.65. Then now you have to create the median. What do you do for the median? The first step is to put them in order from smallest to biggest. Always median has to be grouped from smallest to biggest, and then we're going to figure out what is going to be the value. Now 20 divided by 2 is going to be 10. So because this is an even number, the median is going to sit in between 10 and the 11th value. So you take the 10th value and the 11th value, and then you divide by 2, and that should give you the median, which should be 48 as well. So see how the mean and the median are very close to each other. It's going to really help us in answering the commenting question in part C. Now the mode is basically how many times or the number of times a particular number is popping up within that sample. So in this case, it would be 48, 52, and 61. So it's all occurring twice within this data set if you have a look at it once you've grouped them together. Now for part C, when you have to comment on the similarities, we're looking for words like skewness, biases, similarities, and things like that. So here's how you would answer a question like this. The mean is slightly higher than the median, very slightly, like 0.65, suggesting a slight skew to the right. Higher values like 71 and 62 are pulling the average up in this data set. Okay, the median middle value remains close to the mean, showing that the data is relatively symmetrical, and multiple modes indicate the data is multimodal with no single most common pulse rate. We're basically looking for these first 2 dot points. They are sufficient enough for a grade 8 to 9 level student. Okay, now this was question number 2. We're going to now move on to question number 3. So as per part 1 of the video, I have mentioned to you that I'm going to go through a full breakdown of how to actually calculate mean, median, range, interquartile range, and everything. Okay, so I'm going to show you the full calculation now with this question. So take a few minutes to read the following question, and then we'll get started. You can pause the video to even try it if you like. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at this question. So it says, as newly appointed coach of Tyrole's Meteorers netball team, Kate decided to record each player's statistics for the previous season. The number of goals scored by the leading goal shooter was this. Okay, you have to calculate the mean, median, range, interquartile range of the data, and there are 3 scores that are much lower than most. Explain the effect these scores have on the summary statistics. So first of all, first thing you should always keep in mind is whenever you have to calculate median, you have to sort it out. So all these numbers are just all over the place at this stage. So what you're going to be doing is putting them from smallest to biggest, and we have 24 values here. data sorted like I've written. Okay, now how do we calculate the mean? The mean is adding all the values and divide by the number of values, and you should get 24.46. How do you calculate the median? Remember, like question number 2, because it's an even number, like 24 values you have, so the average should be, or the median should be, in between 12th and the 13th value. So the 12th and the 13th value from the data set is going to be 28 and 28, basically these data sets here, right? So we just divide it by 2 and you should get 28. If it was an odd number, it's much easier to do. You don't have to do this step. It's just for even numbers. Now the range in this part of the question here is the maximum take away the minimum. So when you look at the data set, once it's been sorted, you look at the lowest number and the biggest number, and you just have to take it away. Now, interquartile range is a little bit difficult, not super difficult, but easy to do as long as you know what the median value is going to be. You already know it's going to be 28. So it's in between the 12th and the 13th value, like 12 and a half value basically, okay? So how do we calculate the interquartile range? To find the IQR, in short, calculate the Q1 and Q3. So Q1 is the median of the lower half, first 12 values. So the 6th and the 7th value, 23 and 25 is going to be the median. So that's where the median is going to sit for the first quartile. So it would be 23 and 25 divided by 2, you get 24.5. Similarly, for quartile 3, it's above the 28, which we had gotten. I think that was the median. That's your quartile number 3. So 6th and 7th value again, because 12 on each side of 24. So you get your 30. Now IQR formula is quartile 3 take away quartile 1. So 30 take away 24.5 should give you 5.5 as your interquartile range. Okay. Now question number part E actually of this question says there are 3 scores that are much lower than most. Explain the effect these scores have on the summary statistics. So we're basically asking you to comment on this particular data set. So if we look at the impact of the outliers, these 3 values, 1, 3 and 8, from the data set, if we go back to it, 1, 3 and 8, the other ones are quite big. They're all 2 digits, as you can see, of the 24 values. So we say mean significantly lowered by the outliers. Without them, the mean would increase. Median is not much affected, remains a reliable measure of central tendency. Range is greatly increased due to the extremely low minimum. However, interquartile range is not affected by outliers since it measures the spread of the middle 50% values. I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to like, share, and comment. Thank you. Bye.